Robert Ariaka, tell me your name and briefly, we just had the primary elections and the primary elections concluded and I saw you take a decision to go as independent. But before going as independent, what was your experience in the primary elections?
Thank you very much, Robert. Of course, I'm called Atiku Bernard, former Member of Parliament, Nile County, and twice contestant in the NRM primaries, unsuccessfully, and also unsuccessfully contested as independent once. Of course, I contested twice independent, and the first time I made it, but the second time I didn't make it. And this time round, I did contest in the NRM primaries with expectation that it will be a free and fair election. Unfortunately, that did not come to pass, and it's the reason why I will be contesting in the upcoming general elections again on the independent ticket, not on my personal volition as such or on my personal decision, but on the request by the people of Nile West constituency because of the electoral malpractices that marred the NRM primaries. And of course, it wasn't a simple decision to take because I'd made it public that this was my last participation in an election of this nature, and I would be taking a break from active politics. But after reflection and looking back at what my people deserve in terms of leadership in Nile West, City, and looking at the direction in which our national politics is going in West Nile, I think I needed to reverse the decision that I had taken because my people made a valid point when they requested me to come back, and I had to take a deep reflection, first and foremost from the point at which I joined politics. I made 48 years this month, on the 14th of August this month, I made 48 years. And I joined politics, active politics, in 2006 as a district councillor. And when I joined politics, I joined politics with the inspiration and the motivation to serve this country at various levels. Of course, starting as a district councillor from 2006 to 2011, and as a member of parliament from 2011 to 2021. And I thought I still have enough stamina. I've gained enough national experience to deserve to last much longer than the period I've so far taken in our national politics. And therefore I think I would be denying my people of Nile West, City, West Nile and Uganda the wealth of experience that I have acquired. I'll be denying the people of Uganda the knowledge that I have acquired over these 15 years in which I was actively in leadership position. And therefore I think coming back will be with this kind of background to be able to continue serving the people. You know, many people think going into leadership or into politics is about amassing wealth. But for me as a person, my motivation is different. And I think those who have related with me very closely from the time I joined politics to now will attest to me that my motivation of being in politics and also in leadership is not about self-aggrandizement or self-enrichment. It's about offering leadership. It's about offering exemplary leadership that can inspire the young ones or youths to be able to join leadership with the same motivation and objective of serving the people.
Let's look at the issues that are pressing needs of West Nile generally, but also down to your constituency, that you think are not well represented currently, that we lag behind, that need leaders who can come into, task government to implement them?
First and foremost, I think we have a gap in terms of mentoring the youth, what one would call probably a nursery bed of leadership. Now, many people have been admiring my leadership, but they forget that I underwent certain training. Before I aspired to be a district councillor, FDC trained us as young leaders. I was a youth leader in the FDC Youth League as Secretary of Foreign Affairs before being elected as a district councillor. And this gave us opportunity to undergo training to become real leaders. We had the benefit of being trained by National Democratic Institute and the International Republican Institute, both of which are American political organizations. We also benefited from European countries that had partnership with the political organizations like FDC, NRM, and the rest, the Electoral Commission, that gave us the benefit of getting the skills of sharpening our raw leadership to be able to be future leaders. For instance, I would say, before anybody aspires to be a leader, can you by yourself coin a message out of the situation, the leadership situation or leadership need of the people you aspire to lead? Now, those are skills that are given to leaders at early stage before somebody aspires to become a leader. And at the time I became an active leader, we were all inspired by the likes of Barack Obama. By the time Obama became the president of the Republic, the president of the United States of America, he had been a senator. And before he became a senator, he had been a volunteer in a political office. Before he became a volunteer in a political office, he was a lecturer, he was a community service or servant. Now, in our setting, we don't have that kind of wealth of, or let me say the luxury of training young leaders. Now, when you look at West Nile, we have so many youths who now aspire to become leaders. Not only West Nile, but in the whole country. In the past, the last general election, we saw so many activists, we saw so many musicians, we saw many artists, musicians, comedians, and whatever you may want to call. And yet, we have youths or students or graduates who have gone through academic training in political science. Very few, if you are to look at the current leaders, very few have done political science as a profession or as a course. But they're in leadership. They are councillors, they are LC5 chairmen, they are members of parliament. And when you look at the kind of leadership they are offering, it leaves a lot to be desired. Why? Because they have come out of the euphoria, the excitement of now that the youth are the majority and therefore they can elect their own age mates to be their leaders. And once they are elected, they failed to fulfill the expectations, or they failed to live to the expectations. Why? Because the requirements of an office, the requirements of a political office are quite different from what excites people out there. It is very easy for somebody to come up and say, because of unemployment, I will go there and create employment opportunities. Once you're elected, how do you create the employment opportunities? But a leader is supposed to use the relevant policies that the government comes up with to create these employment opportunities. Somebody will say, when you elect me, I'll build for you roads. The condition of roads are very bad. You know, people are getting accidents. We are failing to transport our goods to the market. But when you elect me, I'll build the roads. Now, 5 years down the road, I mean, the status of the road has remained the same. Why? Because the person you elected never had the benefit of unpacking a policy that relates to construction of roads. The person you elected never had the knowledge of how a budget is scrutinized to be able to allocate the resources for constructing these roads. The person doesn't have the skills to lobby. You know, when you are lobbying, you lobby the ministries, you lobby in the departments. If you're a councillor, you identify with a particular department, a committee. Now, lobbying is done at committee level, be it at council level, be it at parliamentary level. When I was in parliament, I used to sit on the committee of ICT. And using my position of sitting in the committee of ICT, I was able to lobby for computer labs in our secondary schools. If you go to Muni now has one of the what they call the incubation centers. And how did that come about? It was because I was sitting in the committee of ICT and I had to lobby for that. And we have that to train our students. We are able to have some of the network, or what you call the network blackout areas. We used to have a lot of problems along the border where Vodacom would interfere with the network in Uganda. We had to explain this at our committee, and as we talk now, Vodacom rarely now interferes with the network of telecom companies inside the West Nile. I was sitting on the committee of government assurances and later on in committee of national economy. Through government assurances, we were able to remind government about promises government made, how we lobbied and ensured that we have a public university in West Nile, how we lobbied for resources to upgrade Arua Regional Referral Hospital, how we were able to lobby to have 2 regional referral hospitals, Yumbe Hospital, the Arua main market, how it has been constructed, the money for USMID, and many others. The connection of West Nile to the national grid, the $100 million, which was able to deliver the long-awaited national grid. All these were done technically by positioning ourselves in the relevant committees, in the Committee of National Economy, because the money, the $100 million that was used for extending or connecting West Nile to the national grid is a loan, and it is the Committee of National Economy which approves loans, government loans. That's how this money has come to the region. The money for rural electrification, you will now see power being taken almost to all the villages, or extending to the various trading centers and the government service institutions. All these were lobbied in the committees that you place yourself in. So, before people get excited to elect leaders, you need to ask the relevant questions. What is the qualification of this leader? For instance, for division councillors, sub-county councillors, LC3 chairpersons, division mayors, there's no requirement for qualification. But does that mean that anybody can become a leader in that position? It is up to the voters to decide. We have our children who have studied, who are educated, they have done the relevant courses, And these are the people we should place as our eyes. When you elect a leader, you're electing a teacher. You're electing somebody who should be able to vision for you. Somebody who should be able to unpack various government policies. Somebody who should be able to lobby when the condition of the road is bad. At what level do you lobby? Is that road a community road? Is it a district road? Is it a national road which should be constructed by Ministry of Works now? Because those days it was under Uganda National Roads Authority. Now that UNRWA was merged with the Ministry of Works. So if you elect somebody who doesn't know these things, this person will be lost, the 5 years will get wasted, and you'll recycle. Another person will come and begin criticizing this leader and say, this one did not deliver as promised, you elect me. And this cycle of electing ignorant, illiterate, and let me say useless people into leadership position will continue, and you continue to lag behind. And we are seeing this in West Nile. We are seeing it. Before we left Parliament, before I left the 10th Parliament, we had projects, infrastructure projects we had put before government to be done in the last 5 years. One of these I will quote is the road from Nebi to Goli to Paida to Wari to Vura to Odramachaku. This border road was supposed to be constructed in the last 5 years. The road from Koboko, Yumbe, Moyo up to Laropi was supposed to be constructed in the last 4 years or 5 years. I'm happy the one of Koboko Yumbe Moyo is now handed over to the contractor and work has started. But the one from Nebi was removed from the priority list. And yet, the bridges along this road have been constructed or are being constructed. These bridges are being constructed so that this road can be constructed. But as we talk now, the money that was supposed to be allocated for doing this road was removed from the National Development Plan. Now, this why? And the people who are supposed to ask these questions are no longer in the Parliament. Honorable Aredru is no longer in the Parliament. Atiku is not there. We got new people in the Parliament who didn't know about this. Honorable Joshua Anywarach, with whom we are coordinating these issues. Honorable Grace Kuichunyi, the woman MP, former woman MP of Zombo, the woman MP of Nebi. All these people were removed from office, and therefore the new people came without guidance from anybody, and these resources were reallocated elsewhere. So I believe our people need enlightenment, and even our youth. I think that is why, many people don't know why I have been starting some of these organizations. I started the West Nile We Want. While I was sleeping around 3 a.m., something came up in my mind and said, but are we going to leave West Nile like this without creating a system that is going to train the future leaders, that is going to help us to transition? You know, why some of us are coming back is because people are never patient with us. If they gave us the opportunity, by now I would have already created a transition path for me to exit parliamentary race and probably to prepare myself for a higher role when I seek the likes of Honorable Nsereko. Honorable Nsereko is leaving Parliament to contest for presidency. Even me, I would have left Parliament to contest for presidency. What's wrong? I mean, what's wrong with that? I shouldn't just leave politics for the sake of, because of being disappointed. I should leave politics for the next level. I left district councillor position to go to Parliament. I should be able to leave Parliament to go to another level of presidency, or if maybe in the future, if things don't work out at that level, people in West Nile will know that their own son also contested for such a position. I believe if people of West Nile rallied behind a presidential candidate who is from West Nile, even if that candidate failed, with their vote, the president who would have made it will say, West Nile is not to be taken for granted. can we sit at the negotiation table? You know, regions like Acholi, Teso, Karamoja, go to Western Uganda, go to Buganda, go to Busoga, they are not getting these cabinet positions on silver plate. They are getting these cabinet positions because they have a threat. They pose a threat to the sitting government. That's why the Chief Justices are being appointed from Acholi sub-region. The Vice President is being appointed from Teso sub-region. The third Deputy Prime Minister is appointed from Busoga. The Speaker is being appointed, elected from Teso. Cabinet Ministers in Western Uganda. The Prime Minister is from Bunyoro. These things are not done out of the blue. It's because of the political strength. Now, as West Nile, we need to rethink the way we are doing our politics. This business of, oh, so and so has eaten enough. Politics is not about eating. It's about electing substance, people who can pose the hard questions about services. Look at the current situation of our road. The road from Nebi to Arua. The road from Karuma to Pakwach. It has taken this government so many years to fix the deterioration of this road. And yet, the road has not lasted more than 20 years. This road is just less than 20 years old. According to the design, the Karuma-Arua road was supposed to be given a second layer of asphalt after the first 10 years. Now, this was not done. And at the time when we were supposed to be asking these questions, West Nile swept across the region and changed the leadership. Now we are back to square one. Now just look at the patching that is being done. By the time government does the road from Nebi to Arua, the road from Nebi to Pakwach will be breaking down. Actually, it has already started breaking down. The road from Oluyo to Kololo, that stretch where they have already rehabilitated, will have broken down. So this way of doing things piecemeal, patching, will continue the way we continue to change leadership without giving our leaders time to entrench themselves, to be able to get the experience that they need, to have that knowledge that they need, to ask the hard questions, to lobby from the right places or the right ministries, to use the right language for that matter. And therefore, I think before these general elections, I am happy people are already picking nomination forms. But during the campaigns, forget about what happened in the NRM primaries. Yes, we participated in the NRM primaries, everything went on well for those of us who participated in the joint campaigns. But when it came to the voting day, people were blinded from the issues that they asked, the hard questions. When we were moving in these joint campaigns, I was elated with the kind of questions people were asking. People were actually asking very genuine and service-inclined questions. Now, when the time for voting reached, money was splashed. People forgot about the questions they asked about service delivery and took money and lined behind people who gave them money. And now, immediately after the elections, they are back to square one. They're asking, but what did we do with ourselves? That's why some of us are coming back as independents, because they have now realized that the money that they picked cannot resolve the question of the bad road. The money that they picked cannot resolve the question of unemployment. The money that they picked cannot resolve the question of poverty. The poverty that we are talking about resolving is entrenched. It's a vicious cycle. It requires certain policy directions to be taken. People have been given PDM, and some have eaten them without putting them to use. First of all, the PDM money is very small. But if somebody was trained and given information about why this PDM money is being given to them, I'm sure some would use that money very correctly and well to lay the first foundation of what? Of chasing poverty. But before that, we are changing leadership. Many new people are going to come, others will come with the message that, you know, PDM money was meant for you to eat. It's It is because it's election period. And maybe even the appointing authority or the president will even compromise and say, okay, those who ate, I think we have heard about that. The president has been saying, okay, those who received the PDM money made the mistakes, maybe they will be forgiven. But that is taxpayers' money. Some of this money is supposed, the PDM money is supposed to be a revolving fund. It is now 4 years since PDM started. That means every parish must be having a revolving fund worth 400 million. Now, if you have 400 million revolving and you are supposed to start paying back that money after 2 years, that means we should be having now close to 1 billion shillings in every parish. Now, without leaders who will be able to understand what PDM is and unpack it and sensitize people about it, PDM will go to waste. It will become a political tool and it will not have achieve the intended objective.
Yes, you have had your time in Parliament. The same question I was going to pose to which you touched. Some people think those who were in Parliament before should leave space for others, yet they forget the reality of good leadership representation, which we have seen gaps in West Nile. What are the lacking things that you think you would want to fix if re-elected? But also too, how do we change the mindset of the people from electing leaders based on money, not issues?
Now, these things are not happening out of the blue. They are well designed. And for communities and societies that are enlightened, they have not fallen for this cheap politics. The Electoral Commission as an institution has a mandate of doing civic education. From the time Uganda started organizing regular 5-year elections, we have not seen Electoral Commission move around the country to do civic education. People they only get surprised that, okay, it's now 5 years, we have to change leaders. Actually, the norm now is the elections have come for us to change leaders. Now, without a formula. And yet, this is the core mandate of Electoral Commission, to be able to create a voting population that knows why they participate in elections. 2, we have, first of all, West Nile, statistically, if you look at the UNBS recent population census report, it puts us as West Nile, first of all, the population is third. We are third populous region after Busoga. Of course, Kampala and Central, and then Busoga, and then West Nile. But when you come to the economic statistics, in terms of housing, in terms of poverty level, in terms of name it, we are not doing well. The dropout rate of the children who enroll for primary education is 80/20. 80% of the children who enroll in P1 drop out before reaching P7. And these children who drop out, where do they end up? They end up in the economy of unskilled, uneducated people, unemployable. Now, that is the wealth of poverty, of wasted brains. Children who now start producing early. When you look at the rate of the teenage pregnancies in our communities, you look at the child-headed number of homes or households from Pakwach to Adjumani. And these are reflected from the way our social standards have dropped. Children now think about discos. Children, you go to every weekend, every trading center is a disco hall, is a disco center. And what happens in the night? And this creates a vicious cycle of poverty. In terms of statistics, West Nile is second poorest region after Karamoja. Now, that is where our problems are entangled. People who are uneducated, illiterate, ignorant, and poor. Now, you don't expect such people to be able to be critical in terms of choosing leadership. Now that's our core problem. That's where people don't reason. They don't think about the message that the political candidates are bringing out. They mind about what am I going with after this. For instance, once we organize these campaign rallies, before you leave, you must leave something behind. People forget about the message that you will communicate, they will ask the hard questions, you will answer them, but to dissolve the sitting, you as a candidate must leave them with something. If you don't leave, there's no vote. Now, the commercialization of our politics has now weakened the fabric, the political fabric. It has weakened the social fabric. It has weakened the economic fabric, and making us now to choose whoever can buy our votes with the highest price. Now that is the challenge, and for me, as one of the contenders, I think it is something that we must harden on. Abandoning it is like turning your back on your people at a time when they most need you. So some of us are ready to stick our head in, to be abused, to be insulted, to be criticized, but we are ready to continue sensitizing our people, educating our people to do the right thing, so that 10 years, 5, 10, 20, 50 years down the road, our children do not dig our graves, because we have to tell them the truth. And I think even those who have been telling them lies, eventually, as the years, run down, for instance, those who told the lies in the last 5 years, the lies have caught up with them now. So some people are beginning to say, hey, but Honorable Atiku told us these things 5 years down the road. Maybe if we had remained with him, things would be better. So I think there are those who pick the message. So going back really to participate in these elections, for some of us, is to continue to sensitize our people, to educate them, to give them the right message, to give them hope that maybe where we are, things are bad, but tomorrow if you do things like this the right way, things will be better. So I believe participating in an election really is not to win as such, because I'm not sure that I'll win come January 2026. But within this campaign period, if I can use this moment also to educate people. During the NRM primaries, I'm sure I educated very many people. I did civic education. And in this coming election period, if I can do more, those who will get enlightened, if I can get more people enlightened to vote for me, the better. But even if I lose after enlightening more people, I think I would have left a better community. So that whoever will have passed in this general election will not find it business as usual. This person will be put to task. Even me, who will have lost, I'll be there also watching and putting this person to task to ensure that he leads us well.
Honorable, we have our politics shifted from the normal representation, legislation, oversight role, and playing your duty of talking, to giving. People want socioeconomic empowerment. What have you done in our community? How have you been managing this, and do you think this approach can be changed?
Yes, this approach can be changed actually. It's also not bad for voters to demand for some immediate or short-term solutions to some of the problems that they have in society. Now, because there are also government programs, which are the various government policies that are being implemented, and hike along, and also probably put or design some projects along that line. Now, before I joined national politics, I told you I started as a councillor. Now, when I was a district councillor, what did I do? There are two things that I did in terms of legislation at the council level. I left behind an ordinance called Arua District Education Ordinance. And what we did in that ordinance was to unpack the UPE policy, Universal Primary Education Policy, and make the duties, the roles and responsibilities in the UPE policy, duties for the stakeholders. Now, if we implemented the UPE policy as it is stated therein in Ministry of Education, by Ministry of Education, do you know that all our children who enroll in primary school would complete the primary cycle up to P7? And those who complete P7 would remain in school from senior 1 up to senior 6. And the benefit of this would be economic turnaround. An educated person is a wealthy human resource. This person can be able to know how to practice agriculture, be it organic agriculture or be it hybrid agriculture, be it commercial agriculture. This person can be employed in in whichever sector because he can read and write. Now, that is what I did when I was in the council. But when I went to Parliament, I initiated certain short-term projects. For instance, I was distributing high-value seeds. We distributed maize, we distributed groundnuts, we distributed beans, we distributed cassava cuttings. I initiated what I called the IVE Education Promotion Fund, where we're giving scholarships and scholastic materials to candidate pupils who perform well in PLE. The intention was to encourage those who are already in school, primary school, to work hard so that they can qualify to join secondary school and also improve the academic performance of this region. 2, we organized the workshops where we're training farmers on how they can participate in intensive agriculture. Aivu is a peri-urban area, now in a city. The kind of agriculture that the people of Aivu need to do is different from those that are in Rhinokem. Is different from those that are in Vora or in Logiri. Is different from those that are in Madiokolo. For you to be able to get value out of a small piece of land, you must be able to plant high-value crops. High-value crops. What are these high-value crops? I talked about distribution of maize seeds, groundnuts, beans, tomato seeds, onion seeds. These are crops that can be planted, or vegetables that can be planted within a period of 3, 4, 5 months, and you harvest and get money. We advanced this to perennial crops, high-value perennial crops. And I want to pick out cocoa. As we talk, I have distributed over 50,000 cocoa seedlings in these last 2 years in Aivu West. It's unfortunate that now I'm cut off from Aivu East, but this is something I would have loved the whole of Aivu to do. This is something that I would have loved the whole of West Nile to do, because cocoa scientifically has been proved to be a crop that can perform very well in the whole of West Nile. Now, why am I doing this in Aivu West? I'm doing it to show to other leaders. I am happy to mention it here. I learned from Honorable James Baba. I learned from Honorable Achid James. These are the 2 MPs with whom we were in Parliament that brought cocoa as a perennial crop for the people of West Nile. Honorable James Baba successfully introduced cocoa in Koboko. Honorable Achidi successfully introduced cocoa in Maracha. I have also successfully introduced cocoa in Aivu. And we expect cocoa to be introduced also in Ivora. We expect cocoa to be introduced in Zombo, in Nebi. I'm happy. Other leaders have picked people like Honorable Dr. George Didi Boka in Obongi. Picked some cocoa seedlings from me. and from Vora. And I saw recently those seedlings are doing very well. Now, if cocoa can grow very well in Obongi, in Yumbe, that means cocoa can do very well in Moyo and Ajumani. Cocoa can still do very well in parts of Madiokol. So, as a region, we have never had a perennial crop that we pride in like other regions like Bugisu. Bugisu has coffee. And of recent, they have also onboarded now cocoa. You go to Buganda, they have coffee. You go to Western Uganda, they have livestock, because Western Uganda is known for producing the largest amount of milk, if not in the whole of East Africa. But in Uganda, we know Western Uganda produces what? Milk. You go to places like Bundibujo, Kasese, Hoima, Fort Poto, Kabarole. They are the biggest producers of cocoa. And we had been told West Nile can only grow tobacco. But recently, actually in Parliament, I participated vividly in passing the Anti-Tobacco Control Act. And the Anti-Tobacco Control Act has helped to reduce the prevalence of growing tobacco in West Nile. Now, people have been asking, what is the alternative when you decampaign tobacco growing in West Nile? What other crop are you going to introduce for us as an alternative? Now we have the answer. The answer is cocoa. This is something we have pre-tested here. It does very well, and our message that we are passing out now is for every homestead in West Nile which has arable land to plant at least 1 acre of cocoa. When you plant 1 acre of cocoa, you are sure of getting a minimum of 20 million shillings. You know, the president has been moving around telling people to move Uganda to middle income status. Each homestead must at least earn 20 million shillings. Now, the question for us we have been asking ourselves as West Nilers was, how shall we get these 20 million shillings? But I am happy. Now we have the answer. Cocoa can actually give you more than 20 million shillings per year. And cocoa yields from January to December, meaning no home will lack money. You will earn money from January to December like a salary earner. Now, that is what is going to break the vicious cycle of poverty in West Nile.
Somebody will ask, where is the market?
Wow, cocoa actually has got insatiable demand, unsatisfied demand. That's why the price keeps rising every day. The price of cocoa rises every day because the supply is limited. We used to think, you know, those of us who studied the SST and history, geography, were told that cocoa only grows in West Africa. Places like Ghana, Cameroon, Ivory Coast were known for cocoa as cocoa producing countries. And in Uganda, it was known as a crop that is grown in Bunibujo, Kasese, Fort Poto, Kabarole, and the like. But later on, we have come to know that cocoa actually grows very well along countries that are crossed by the equator. That is why cocoa is grown in India. It's grown in sub-Saharan Africa, particularly Kenya, Uganda, Congo, and then crosses like this to South America, Brazil, Argentina, and other countries to mention. So for us who have just discovered that actually cocoa can do very well in West Nile, we have no excuse other than to put all our energies to convince our people to embrace the growing of cocoa. And the beauty with it is that within a period of 2 to 3 years, it starts fruiting. You start earning money. And we are being told you can't grow cocoa alone, you have to grow it with bananas. As you wait for the cocoa to start fruiting, you harvest bananas. As we are planting cocoa, we are planting also regrowing the forest cover of our region. You are aware that tobacco did a lot of havoc in our region. We cut all the trees to cure tobacco. Now cocoa has come, and cocoa is demanding that we must plant shade trees. The shade trees that we're talking about are trees like albizia. We're talking about trees like misizi. We're talking about trees that will replace the lost forest cover, and eventually we shall restore the good climate that we used to enjoy in this region. We will restore the economic value. Money will come back to West Nile. We have been total consumers. West Nile has been like a supermarket. We have been importing, food stuff, including vegetables from other regions, as if our soils have died. So I believe cocoa has come as a magic crop. It has come as a miracle crop to restore the ecosystem in West Nile. That will also improve on our soil quality, and eventually our people will be rich again. And I want to encourage all the leaders actually to embrace the cocoa gospel. As I've been preaching it in Nile West, I want this gospel to catch fire across the entire region so that we can get our people out of this vicious cycle of poverty. And I believe the message of socio-economic transformation should cut across regardless of political party. Because we know the message of socio-economic transformation has been coined by the NRM. It was the NRM catchword in the last manifesto. But now we realize it is something that should just not be spoken about, but should be put into action so that our people begin to realize that actually chasing poverty is something that can be done simply because we have the land, and the land is very fertile. We now get some good rains. These rains that come, we should use it for planting cocoa, we should use it for planting coffee, we should use it for planting bananas, because these are perennial crops from which you can earn an income. As I said, cocoa market is in abundance. And let me just reveal to you this. It has actually been proven in the world market that the cocoa from West Nile is the best. It has the best ingredients for making chocolate. And whoever has been importing it in Italy, in South Korea, actually, our cocoa now is being fought for. Italians are fighting for it. South Koreans are fighting for it. They have established a processing plant in Koboko now, being managed by Honorable James Baba, so that the cocoa can be exported as semi-processed powder. Now, that is the beauty. That is why I keep saying, why didn't this message or information come out 20 years ago or 50 years ago? Our people would not be languishing in poverty. My friends from Bundibujo came recently to visit because they have been seeing what I post on social media. They came to confirm whether the cocoa I post on social media is indeed there. When they visited my village, they were surprised. They said, you people, you are rich. The quality of cocoa they sow is quite different from what they harvest in Bundibujo. The pods are bigger than what they harvest in Bundibujo. So that should really motivate our people to vote for people like me who are going to champion. Because in my manifesto, I told people I am going to ensure that the 18 parishes in Nile West, each of them will have a nursery bed or a nursery operator. I actually brought the cocoa expert who came and trained people recently here. We are now going to do the second phase of training the nursery operators. After establishing the nursery beds, we are now going to move to training the farmers on how to plant the cocoa, how to care for them, and after that, we shall move to another training of when you harvest cocoa, how do you process the beans? After processing the beans, how do you sell the beans? Because once you have a very quality cocoa beans, they fetch higher prices. The minimum price of a kilo of cocoa beans is 20,000. Actually now they're buying at 28,000. But when it reaches the main buyers, it is bought at 50,000. The cocoa powder is being bought by South Koreans at 180,000 per kilo. Now just imagine how much money is going to be coming to West Nile instead of us donating money to other regions. This time around, it is going to be different. We are not only going to establish the nursery bed for cocoa, we're going to establish a nursery bed for tomatoes, for onions, for Irish potato. You know, people thought Irish potato can only grow well in Mbale or in Kisoro. In West Nile here, only in Zombo. No! Irish potato can grow very well in the whole of West Nile if you do the right agronomics. Now, those are the, short-term socioeconomic initiatives that we as leaders must implement for our people to be able to break this vicious cycle of poverty which is eating.
I have lived in Arua. I've grown up in Arua. I have been sometimes perturbed politics of pull so and so down, hatred, the Nyatabo in Lugbarati, which you already talked about. But we see this as a huge, threat to West Nile's growth. If somebody is to be appointed, this person receives a very bad response from our own people. You find them writing letters right and left fighting this person. If somebody has good ideology, he is fought. And then the issue of, the cancer of Arua City versus a demand for Aivu district, yet the policy was clear, regional cities, it was not an Aivu affair. And then some people thinking that, a few of you have been a factor blocking certain things for them. How do we leave alone this narrative of fights everywhere in West Nile so that we have a common voice to have a better region and even have a better, growth?
The issue here is the environment in which we have grown. And this, you can't blame the current people who orchestrate hatred, blackmail, politics of pulling down, because they have been brought up in that environment. The colonialists never did us a service. They decimated this region. One, by keeping it as a labor reserve, because our people were denied education. The education institutions, the first education institutions in West Nile, like St. Joseph's College, Ombachi, Nyapea, St. Charles Luanga, these came much, much later, when the likes of Sir Samuel Becker were already in place. The likes of Budo were already in place. The likes of Mwiri were already in place. The likes of Makere College were already in place. Our people, if those bright ones had to trek all the way to places in Lango, to places like in Acholi, to Sir Samuel Becker, others had to go to King's College Mwiri, to King's College Budo. West Nile had no education institution. Now that is how far back we were disadvantaged educationally. Now in terms of, economic position, the able-bodied people from West Nile were taken to be fighters. First of all, the World War took some of them. When colonialists, of course, we became independent, the best they would do was to recruit the able-bodied young men from West Nile to join the army, Uganda prisons, police, Then the last batch of hard-working West Nilers were taken into the farms, the large-scale establishments in Buganda, in Busoga, in Bunyoro, to cut sugar cane, to pick tea, to pick coffee, and many of them have ended up lost. Now, from the colonial period to post-colonial period, when we got independence, West Nile was decimated completely. We had the cream de la cream of West Nile was not there. Now, what did they leave behind? They left behind ignorance, poverty, and disease. Now, in an environment of that nature, people become selfish, people become angry, people become greedy, people become selfish, people become jealous, people become envious. Now, when one of them is picked to be positioned in a leadership position, automatically, that envy comes automatic, the jealousness comes automatic. And that's why many of them, actually, some of them don't do things in their villages. You see very little development in the village. You see very little development probably in West Nile, because they fear jealousy, they fear envy, they fear sabotage. Now, for us to undo that, mischievousness which has been planted here for so many decades, there are only two solutions. The first solution is education. We must educate our people, because education exposes, opens the mind. It makes people to undo jealousness, envy. It makes people to understand that for you to be rich, you must work hard. Now, once our people are educated, then they can be able to understand these things. The second solution is to address poverty. Poverty is what makes people to become jealous. It's what makes people to sabotage others. But now with cocoa, I believe the moment every homestead starts earning something, this business of mining other people's business will stop. Because everybody will be able to afford school fees for their children. They'll be able to afford medication. They'll be able to afford a decent housing. They'll be able to afford decent clothing on themselves. So I believe once we address these two, education and poverty, and make our people to start reasoning at par with the rest of the world, I don't think we will remain backward. Our people will be able to start developing, will be able to start appreciating development, will be able to start appreciating good leadership. Because, by the way, some of these things are happening because once you have semi-literate people or majority of people uneducated, once you have majority of people poor, when an opportunity like this opens up, for instance now the elective positions or the elections are coming, everybody will think going for elections will address their challenge or their poverty. And while these few are challenging each other, they will automatically fight. And the few who will make it in the leadership position also will begin fighting themselves on who is going to be appointed or to be the blue eye of the appointing authority. So, and once the kind of people you have elected are coming from the background of poverty, of illiteracy, they'll fight each other. They'll eat each other because the other will want to be the one in that position. But if you're electing people from a pool of rich people, from a pool of educated people, I mean, as I said, leadership is about service. While others look at it as an end to address their poverty and what have you, those of us who are looking at it as a position to serve people, to educate people, to open people's mind, we know that it's actually a sacrifice. Yes, somebody will have his own interpretation. But truly, leadership is a sacrifice, it's a service. Even whatever you earn from the leadership position, you should be able to use it to uplift your people out of illiteracy, out of ignorance, out of poverty. That is what a leader is supposed to do. That is why I constructed a headquarter. I spent 200 million to construct that headquarter. That is a house I should have built maybe to earn money from. But I wanted to demonstrate to my people that actually leadership is supposed to offer you this kind of service. Why did I construct the headquarter? I constructed the headquarter as an address for a member of parliament. Because the office of a member of parliament is a contact office to the rest of the world. If somebody came from Kampala or from wherever and wants to find out where does the member of parliament of Ivory West sit, he should be able to go to my address. And that is a lobby office. I should be able to use that office to lobby for services. Why was I putting money in Ivory Education Promotion Fund? I was putting money there to ensure that our people focus on education. Our children who are in schools focus on education. And not just education, but quality education. I was buying textbooks and distributing to schools. I bought computers and distributed to schools to ensure that our schools also are at par with the rest of the schools in the country. Because now education is being delivered on a global platform using artificial intelligence. Actually, the world has now moved to the, formal education is now on a platform called artificial intelligence. But you find our people are still using chalkboard, they're still using pen and paper, but in the rest of the world, people are now using smartphones. They are using smart computers. They sit in a computer lab to learn, to study. They don't use paper, they don't use pens. That's where the level of education has reached. Now, that is the role of a leader. The role of a leader is to bring services closer to the people. We embraced government's establishment of regional cities. Arua became a city not only for the people of Ivory. Arua was named a city long time ago. From the time the colonialists established their headquarters in Arua, automatically they named Arua to be a future city. Now, under Museveni's regime, using Vision 2040 and National Development Plan 2, 3, and 4 to roll out the regional cities. Arua is now a city and the city is here to stay. What is a city? Our role as leaders is to unpack. I told